Welcome to my studio. In a moment I'll show you a group of short clips from The Protector, a new 89-minute seascape workshop with waves, foam patterns, and rocks, all shown in close-up brushwork. And to help us learn together, I've even left some of those frustrating times when things didn't go well, and I had to wipe out and redo an area for a better presentation. There's color harmony and a strong study in composition and just plain fun. So gather your paints and brushes together and join me as we bring The Protector to life on the canvas. Along with the 16 filbert, other brushes include a 1/2 inch flat shader used for most of the painting, a 2.5 inch sash brush for smoothing some of the harsher areas, and a number 7 filbert with longer, fuller bristles for blending in the open sky. The 16 filbert would do just as well. There's no need to run out and buy another brush. There is also a number 1 liner brush for the detail work and a number 2 round for blending smaller areas. But whatever brushes you use should be fresh, that is, in good condition with sharp points or edges and not extremely worn or flared from use. Don't be afraid of color. The rosy pink that I laid on against the rock base was an accident. I picked up a little too much alizarin on the brush and, well, there it was. It probably doesn't belong there. It's not in shadow. There should be more of the white highlight across the crest. I was going to wipe it out, but it seemed to add warmth to the cool wave, and I like color, and I felt like it belonged. Everything I do from this point will be an attempt to lead the eye toward the top of the breaker. First, a stroke of color from the edge of the canvas into the body of the wave, an upward curve and a jagged end to show the first of several choppy swells in the foreground water. A few swings of the brush to blend the color into the background of the swell, and then a second upward motion to show more of the broken surface. Next, I'll add a continuation of color further into the wave, but I'm leaving the main area below the transparency for the foam patterns I'll be adding later. There's more about composition, but for a moment, let's go back to the painting and talk about the patterns in the foreground water. Now that I have the shapes in the foreground leading into the painting, we can build more reinforcement by bringing in brighter colors. Beginning with the swell at the base of the wave, I'll paint a transparency, as it is in the breaker, light at the top, a blending of emerald into the body, brushing it out into the surrounding area, and then just a touch of the brighter color behind the swell. A final blending, softening, and bringing it all together, and we're ready for the patterns. Let's jump ahead to the finished foreground image before the highlights were added. Notice that I've also blended the emerald into the second swell with less color value, drawing it out toward the left edge of the painting. Stronger lead-in, more reinforcement. With the transparency formed and reinforced with brighter colors, I'm ready for the small detail. So far in the painting, we've been placing colors with the larger brushes, the half-inch shader being the most used, and the filbert and larger blender for softening and bringing areas together. Now for the first time, I've picked up the #1 liner for the detail and the pattern work that overlays the small swells. I'm painting wet on wet, so without exception, I'll need to clean the brush with the rag after each application of the lighter gray. If the color hangs, if it doesn't flow with the brush movement, I may add a tiny drop of medium into the paint on the palette so it will flow more easily off the tip. When I first began painting, I spent endless hours watching foam patterns. What are they? What makes them appear so magically and then vanish away so quickly? Patterns are not just lines that appear on the surface. They're molecular energy that is creating a disturbance from the surface of the water down to the sea floor. Even though we paint them that way, patterns are not just flat, paper-thin layers on the face of the ocean. They're influenced by contact with every energy movement around them from the seafloor to the surface. Every moving swell coming in from the open sea, every counter-energy pattern returning from backwash off the rocks, every wind-blown friction has its power to move and change them. At this moment, the strokes are not doing what I had hoped to show in the video. The dynamics aren't flowing together as they should. Unusual strokes that don't make sense. It looks like I'm in trouble. Wipeouts and redos in an area that should have been simple to create. Maybe this is a time that I should leave the painting and sit on a rock for a while to let things mellow out. And looking back, this may also be a time to think of when this has happened before. How do I know when to walk away? And are there common signs that say rest and come back later? With each brush stroke, I'm still keeping in mind the original form and patterns that I laid out for the foreground. And although it's not as clear as when I placed that first line, I can still define the top of that forward swell with a cap of highlight. Was I successful with the protector? I'll leave that for you to decide. My only hope is that you'll find some inspiration here for your creativity and your bright tomorrows.